Elena Moore stood at the window of her palace, watching the alien ships hover above her city. They were massive, dark things that blocked out the sun. Her hands trembled as she gripped the window frame. In 7 days, everything she loved would be gone. The Crethians had arrived 3 weeks ago. They were a warrior race, tall and powerful, with skin like gray stone and eyes that glowed red in the darkness. Their leader, War Master Zekthor, had made his demands clear. Submit to the Crethian Empire or die. There would be no negotiation, no mercy. Viridian was a small colony world. Farmers, teachers, engineers, and families lived here in peace. They had no army, no weapons that could fight alien warships. Elena's father had built this colony on hope and hard work, not violence. Now that peace would cost them everything. "Princess, we must evacuate," her advisor, George Harris, said from behind her. His voice was tired. "We can get the children off-world at least. Save some of our people." Elena turned to face him. George was an old man who had served her father for 30 years. His face was lined with worry. She shook her head slowly. "The Crethians will hunt them down. You know this. They want workers, slaves. Running will only delay the inevitable." George's shoulders sagged. He knew she was right. The Crethians controlled this entire sector of space. There was nowhere to hide, no human military force close enough to help. Earth was months away by the fastest ship. They were alone. Elena walked to her desk and sat down heavily. She had not slept in 3 days. Her mind raced through every possibility, every option. Nothing worked. Nothing gave her people hope. "There must be something," she whispered. "Some way to protect them." George was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled out a data pad and set it on her desk. "There might be one option, but you will not like it." Elena looked at the screen. It showed a docking manifest from the orbital station. One ship had arrived 2 days ago for repairs, a small cargo vessel called the Wandering Star. The captain was listed as Ryan Blake, human freelance trader. "A cargo ship?" Elena asked. "How does this help us?" George tapped the screen, bringing up more information. "I did some research. The Crethian Empire has many laws, but one they never break is the marriage law. If a woman of noble birth marries someone with military standing, the Crethians must negotiate with her husband before taking action. It is their oldest tradition from their ancient warrior codes." Elena stared at him. "You want me to marry a cargo pilot?" "Not just any pilot. Look at his registration." George pointed to a line on the screen. "He has a military license, old Terran Defense Fleet credentials, expired but still valid in Crethian law. If you marry him, Zekthor would be forced to treat with him as your representative." "That will not stop them," Elena said. "They will just kill him and take what they want." "Perhaps, but it buys time. Time to send messages, to find help. Right now we have 7 days. If you marry this man, Zekthor must give you at least 30 days by his own laws. That is almost a month more. In that time, maybe something changes." Elena closed her eyes. Marry a stranger, bind herself to a man she had never met. All for a slim chance at survival. It was insane. But what choice did she have? Her people needed her to try everything. Anything. "Send for him," she said quietly. "Bring this Ryan Blake to me." 2 hours later, Elena waited in her private meeting room. She had changed into formal clothes, though she felt ridiculous. She was about to propose marriage to a cargo pilot who probably wanted nothing to do with her problems. The door opened. George led a man inside and then quietly left, closing the door behind him. Ryan Blake was not what Elena expected. He was tall but not imposing. His clothes were simple and worn. His face had several scars, including one that ran from his eyebrow to his cheek. His hair was dark and messy, but his eyes caught her attention. They were blue and tired, like he had seen too much of the galaxy and wanted only to rest. He stood awkwardly near the door, looking around the room like he was not sure why he was there. "Please, sit," Elena said, gesturing to a chair. Ryan sat down slowly. He did not speak. He just waited, watching her with those tired eyes. Elena took a breath. There was no point in being subtle. "Mr. Blake, I need your help. My people are going to be enslaved in 7 days by the Krethian Empire. I have no military, no weapons, and no allies. But I do have one option." She explained George's plan. The marriage law, the military credentials, the chance to buy more time. Ryan listened without interrupting. His expression did not change. When she finished, silence filled the room. Ryan looked down at his hands. They were rough, scarred. The hands of someone who worked with them. "Why me?" he finally asked. His voice was quiet, rough from disuse. "Because you are here," Elena said honestly, "and because I have nothing else. I can offer you money, mining rights, whatever resources Viridian has. But mostly, I am asking you to do this because it is right. These are good people. They do not deserve what is coming." Ryan was quiet for a long time. Elena watched him, trying to understand what he was thinking. His face showed nothing. He could refuse, walk away, go back to his ship and leave her world to burn. "I am not a good man," Ryan said slowly. "My past is complicated, dark. If you tie yourself to me, you might be inviting worse problems." "Worse than extinction?" Elena asked. Ryan smiled, but it was sad. "You would be surprised." He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the Krethian ships still hung in the sky like metal vultures. Ryan stared at them for a long moment. "If I do this," he said, "there is no going back. Once we are married, I am bound to you and your people. That means I will do whatever it takes to protect you. Whatever it takes. Do you understand?" Elena did not fully understand, but she nodded. "Yes." Ryan turned to face her. Something in his eyes had changed. They were still tired, but now there was something else, something hard and cold, like steel. "Then I accept," he said. The wedding took place the next day. It was a simple ceremony in Viridian's assembly hall. Only a few witnesses attended. Elena wore a plain dress. Ryan wore the same clothes he had arrived in. A local magistrate read the vows. Elena and Ryan repeated them, their voices echoing in the empty hall. When it was done, they were husband and wife. Elena looked at the man beside her, this stranger who was now bound to her by law. Ryan looked back at her, and for a moment, she thought she saw regret in his eyes. News of the marriage reached the Krethians within hours. Zekthor's response came quickly. He was furious. He sent a message calling Elena a fool and Ryan a coward. But he also acknowledged the marriage law. They had 30 days. That night, Elena sat in her room, staring at the ring on her finger. It was a simple band, nothing special. She had married for duty, for her people. She told herself it did not matter that Ryan was a stranger, that she knew nothing about him except that he had agreed to help. But deep down, she wondered, who was Ryan Blake? What darkness haunted him? And when the Krethians came, would this quiet, scarred man be able to do anything at all? She would find out soon enough. The 30 days passed too quickly. Elena barely saw Ryan during that time. He spent his days walking around the colony, studying the buildings and streets. He asked questions about the layout of the palace, the number of people in the city, where the children stayed during the day. Elena thought he was just trying to understand his new home. She did not realize he was preparing for war. On the morning of the 30th day, Zekthor's message arrived. It was short and brutal. The time for negotiation was over. He did not recognize the marriage. He would land with his soldiers at noon, and take what belonged to the Crethian Empire. Anyone who resisted would die. Elena called an emergency meeting in the palace. Her advisors argued about what to do. Some wanted to surrender peacefully. Others wanted to evacuate. George suggested they barricade themselves inside and hope for a miracle. Everyone talked at once, their voices rising in panic. Ryan sat quietly in the corner listening. He had said almost nothing for the entire 30 days. Elena had tried to talk to him several times, but he always gave short answers and walked away. She wondered if he regretted helping her. "What do we do?" Elena finally asked, looking directly at Ryan. "You are my husband. Legally, you speak for me. What is your decision?" Ryan looked up. His tired eyes met hers. "Everyone except Elena leaves this room. Now." The advisors protested, but something in Ryan's voice made them stop. One by one, they filed out. George was the last to leave. He gave Elena a worried look before closing the door. Elena and Ryan were alone. The silence felt heavy. Outside the window, she could see Crethian ships descending through the atmosphere. They would be here in minutes. "You should hide," Ryan said. "Find somewhere safe in the palace. Stay there until this is over." "Over?" Elena's voice rose. "Ryan, there are hundreds of them. This palace has no defenses. We cannot fight." "You cannot fight," Ryan said. He stood up and walked to a storage closet in the corner of the room. He opened it and pulled out a long black case that Elena had never seen before. "I can?" He opened the case. Inside were weapons. Not the simple hunting rifles that colonists used, but military-grade equipment. Knives, small guns, and something that looked like it belonged in a war zone. "Where did those come from?" Elena asked. "I brought them. Been here the whole time." Ryan began strapping knives to his belt, checking each weapon with practiced ease. His movements were different now. Faster, more precise. "You asked me to protect your people. That is what I am going to do." "You are one man," Elena said desperately. "Even with weapons, you cannot stop an army." Ryan smiled. It was not a happy smile. "You would be surprised what one man can do." The palace doors exploded inward at exactly noon. Crethian soldiers poured through, their heavy boots shaking the floor. They were huge, 7 or 8 feet tall, with armor that looked like black metal fused to their skin. Each one carried weapons that could tear through walls. Leading them was Zekthor himself. The War Master was larger than the others, with scars covering his face and arms. His red eyes glowed with anger as he stomped through the halls. "Elena Moore!" his voice boomed. "Come out and face judgment! Your pathetic marriage means nothing! I will drag you out myself!" Elena stood frozen at the top of the stairs, watching the soldiers spread through her palace. Ryan stood beside her, perfectly still. She wanted to run, to hide like he had told her, but her feet would not move. "Stay behind me," Ryan said quietly. Then he walked down the stairs toward the army. Zekthor saw him and laughed. It was a horrible sound, like rocks grinding together. "This is your champion? This scarred human? I will kill him quickly as a mercy." Ryan said nothing. He just kept walking down the stairs, his hands empty, his face calm. The first Crethian soldier rushed at him. It was a massive creature, weapons raised, ready to smash Ryan into the floor. Elena wanted to scream, to warn him, but the words caught in her throat. Ryan moved. It happened so fast that Elena almost missed it. One moment Ryan was standing still. The next moment he was beside the Crethian soldier. His hand snapped out, striking the creature's neck with surgical precision. There was a crack. The soldier collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. The other Crethians froze, confused. Their companion was down before anyone understood what happened. Ryan picked up the fallen soldier's weapon, a heavy blade that should have required 2 hands. He held it in one hand like it weighed nothing. Then the real fight began. Ryan became a blur of motion. He moved through the Krethian soldiers like water flowing around rocks. Every movement was perfect, efficient, deadly. He did not waste a single motion. A strike to disable, a cut to disarm, a throw that sent a soldier crashing into two others. Elena watched in horror and amazement. This was not fighting. This was art. Ryan knew exactly where to hit, how to move, when to strike. The Krethian soldiers were trained warriors, but they looked like children fighting a master. Bodies fell around him. Not all dead, but all defeated. Ryan's face remained calm, almost bored. He was not angry or excited. He was just doing a job, the way someone might fix a machine or build a wall. Zekthor's confidence began to crack. He barked orders, sending more soldiers forward. They came in groups, trying to surround Ryan. It did not matter. Ryan seemed to sense them before they moved, always a step ahead, always untouchable. One soldier tried to grab him from behind. Ryan dropped low, spun, and used the soldier's own momentum to throw him through a wall. Another swung a massive hammer. Ryan stepped inside the swing, too close to hit, and struck twice. The soldier's weapon clattered to the floor. In less than 3 minutes, 20 Krethian soldiers lay on the ground. Some groaned in pain. Others did not move. Ryan stood in the center of them all, barely breathing hard. Zekthor's red eyes went wide. He stared at Ryan like he was seeing a ghost. His mouth opened and closed several times before words came out. "No," Zekthor whispered. "It cannot be. You are dead. They said you died on Terra Station." Ryan looked up at him. For the first time, Elena saw something in Ryan's eyes. Not anger, not hate, just cold, empty purpose. "Who said that?" Ryan asked quietly. Zekthor took a step backward. His soldiers, the ones still standing, also backed away. Fear rippled through the Krethian ranks like a wave. "The ghost of Terra Station," Zekthor breathed. "The Revenant. You are him." Ryan said nothing. He just stood there, waiting. Zekthor's entire body language changed. The proud war master, who had threatened to enslave an entire planet, now looked like prey facing a predator. He raised his hand, stopping his soldiers from attacking. "Retreat!" Zekthor ordered. "Everyone, back to the ships! Now!" "War Master?" one soldier questioned. "Now!" Zekthor roared. He looked at Ryan one more time, something like respect in his eyes. "I did not know. If I had known he was here, I never would have come. This world is yours, Revenant. We will not return." The Krethian soldiers scrambled to leave. They picked up their wounded and ran for the doors. Within minutes, the palace was empty, except for Elena and Ryan. Through the windows, she watched the Krethian ships lift off and disappear into the sky. Silence filled the palace. Elena stood at the top of the stairs, shaking. Her legs felt weak. She had just watched her husband, the quiet cargo pilot, destroy an elite military unit without taking a single injury. Ryan set down the weapon he had been holding. He rolled his shoulders like he was working out a knot. Then he looked up at Elena. "Are you hurt?" he asked. His voice was normal again, tired, gentle. Elena could not speak. She just shook her head. Ryan nodded and started walking toward the door. "Good. I need to check the perimeter, make sure they are really gone. Stay inside until I get back." "Wait!" Elena finally found her voice. She ran down the stairs and grabbed his arm. "Who are you? What are you?" Ryan looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face. Sadness filled his eyes. "I told you my past was complicated," he said softly. "I used to be someone else, someone dangerous. I thought I could leave that behind, but it seems the past does not let go so easily. They called you the Revenant, the ghost of Terra Station. What does that mean?" Ryan gently pulled his arm free. "It means I am not the man you thought you married. I am sorry, Elena. I tried to warn you." He walked away, leaving Elena standing alone in her destroyed palace, surrounded by the evidence of violence she could barely comprehend. She looked at her ring, then at the door where Ryan had disappeared. She had married a stranger to save her people. Now she realized the stranger was something far more than she imagined. The question was, what would she do with that knowledge? News traveled fast in the colony worlds. Within a day, everyone knew what happened on Viridian. The Krathian Empire, known for their ruthless conquests, had retreated from a single human. Messages flooded into Elena's communication systems. Some were grateful, others were terrified. Elena sat in her office, reading through the messages. George stood beside her, his face worried. "Princess, you need to see this," he said, handing her a data pad. The screen showed news reports from across human space. Every one of them mentioned Ryan Blake, but they did not call him a cargo pilot or a traitor. They called him by other names: the Revenant, the Ghost, the Phantom. Elena scrolled through the articles, her heart sinking with each one. 10 years ago, Ryan had been part of something called the Phantom Corps. It was a special military unit, so secret that most people did not believe it existed. The soldiers in that unit were not normal. They had been given experimental training, neural implants that enhanced their reflexes and awareness. They were sent on missions that officially never happened. One article detailed a conflict on a mining colony called Tycho Base. A terrorist group had taken hostages, threatening to blow up the entire facility. Negotiations failed. Then, in one night, every terrorist was found dead or unconscious. No shots were fired. No alarms were raised. The hostages were freed without a single casualty. Security footage showed nothing except shadows moving too fast to track. Later, someone claimed it was Ryan's unit. Another article discussed the prevention of a war between two corporate factions. The leaders of both sides were planning to send private armies against each other. Millions would have died. Then, mysteriously, every single military commander on both sides vanished in the same night. They were found 3 days later, tied up in a warehouse with evidence of their illegal weapons deals. The war never happened. Again, Ryan's name was whispered as being involved. But the last article made Elena's blood run cold. It was about Terra Station, a major military outpost. 10 years ago, there had been an incident, an ambush. The Phantom Corps was sent to eliminate a threat, but they walked into a trap. The entire unit was killed in a single night, except for one. Ryan Blake somehow survived, though the report said he was badly injured. After that, Ryan disappeared. The military listed him as dead. But some people claimed to see him over the years, always alone, always moving from place to place. The Ghost of Terra Station, they called him. A killer who could not die. Elena set down the data pad, her hands shaking. She had married this man, bound herself to him, and she had no idea who he really was. "Where is he now?" she asked George. "His ship. He has not left it since yesterday." Elena stood up. "I need to talk to him." George grabbed her arm gently. "Princess, maybe you should wait. Give him time." "Time for what? To disappear? To leave us?" Elena pulled free. "No, he is my husband, and I deserve answers." She walked out of the palace and across the landing field to where Ryan's ship was docked. The Wandering Star was small and old, with dents and scorch marks across its hull. It looked like it had been through 100 battles. Elena climbed the boarding ramp and found the door open. Inside, the ship was cramped and dark. Simple furniture, no decorations. It was the home of someone who did not want to stay anywhere too long. Ryan sat in the pilot's chair staring at a blank screen. He did not turn when she entered. "You read about me," he said. It was not a question. "Yes." Elena moved to stand beside him. "Why did you not tell me?" Would you have married me if you knew? Ryan finally looked at her. His eyes were hollow. Would you have tied yourself to a killer? You are not just a killer, Elena said. Those articles, the missions, you saved people, stopped wars. Ryan laughed bitterly. Is that what the articles say? They do not tell you about the bodies, the people I hurt who were just doing their jobs, the families destroyed because I was following orders. Then tell me, Elena said. Tell me what really happened. Ryan was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was distant, like he was talking about someone else's life. The Phantom Corps was created to do things normal soldiers could not. We were given enhancements, training that broke us down and rebuilt us. They turned us into weapons, perfect weapons. And for a while, I believed in it. I thought we were making the galaxy safer. He stood up and walked to a small cabinet. He opened it and pulled out a bottle and 2 glasses. He poured drinks for both of them, his hands steady. Then came Terra Station. We got intelligence about a terrorist cell planning to use biological weapons, kill millions. We were sent to stop them. It was supposed to be a simple extraction. Ryan took a drink, his face twisting. But it was a trap. Someone betrayed us. When we arrived, they were waiting. My entire unit, my friends, my brothers and sisters in arms, they all died in minutes. How did you survive? Elena asked softly. I do not know. Luck maybe, or maybe I was just too stubborn to die. Ryan set down his glass. I woke up 3 days later in a medical facility. The military told me I was the only survivor. They wanted me to continue missions, to rebuild the unit. But I could not. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces. My friends. Dying because someone decided we were acceptable losses. So you left. I ran, Ryan corrected. I destroyed my enhancements, or most of them. Changed my name, got a cargo ship, and tried to disappear. I thought if I could just be normal, just haul supplies from place to place, I could forget. But you never really forget. Elena moved closer to him. Ryan, you saved my people. You protected us when no one else would. That matters. I am a monster, Elena. Ryan's voice broke. You saw what I did to those soldiers. I felt nothing. No anger, no fear, nothing. I just hurt them because that is what I was built to do. How can you look at me and not see that? Elena took his hand. It was rough and scarred, but warm. I see a man who agreed to help strangers. A man who could have left but chose to stay. Yes, you have done terrible things. But you also did them to protect people who could not protect themselves. That does not make you a monster. That makes you human. Ryan looked down at their joined hands. Tears formed in his eyes, but he did not let them fall. I do not deserve your kindness. Maybe not, but you have it anyway. Elena squeezed his hand. Ryan, I need to know. Are you going to leave? Now that the Crethians are gone, will you go back to running? Ryan was silent for a long moment. He looked around his ship, this small, dark space he had called home for 10 years. Then he looked at Elena, really looked at her, like he was seeing her for the first time. No, he said finally. I am tired of running. I made you a promise when we got married, to protect you and your people. I do not break my promises, even if it means facing your past, especially if it means facing my past. Ryan took a breath. But you need to understand something. Now that people know I am here, my past will come looking. Old enemies, old allies, people who want to use me or kill me. Staying with me puts you and your people in danger. We are already in danger, Elena said. That is why I needed you in the first place. At least now, we have someone who can protect us. Ryan smiled slightly. You are either very brave or very foolish. Both, probably. Elena smiled back. That is what my father used to say. They stood together in the quiet ship, two people bound by circumstance, but maybe, just maybe, beginning to understand each other. Elena still had questions. She still did not fully understand what Ryan was or what he had done. But she understood enough to know that he was not evil. He was broken, like a blade that had been used too hard for too long. But broken things could be repaired. "Come back to the palace," Elena said. "We can figure out what comes next together." Ryan hesitated, then nodded. "All right. But Elena, if things get bad, if my past brings real danger, I want you to promise me something." "What?" "Promise you will protect your people first, even if that means letting me go." Elena looked into his tired blue eyes and shook her head. "I cannot promise that. We are married now, remember? For better or worse. That means we face what comes together." Ryan looked like he wanted to argue, but instead, he just sighed. "You are impossible. I have been told that before." Elena turned toward the door, still holding his hand. "Come on, George will want to talk about defense plans, and you probably need actual food, not whatever you have been eating on this ship." As they walked down the ramp together, Elena felt something strange. Hope. Not the desperate hope of someone drowning and grasping at anything. Real hope. Yes, Ryan had a dark past. Yes, there would be challenges ahead. But for the first time since the Crethians arrived, she felt like maybe, just maybe, things would be okay. Peace lasted for exactly 12 days. Elena woke up to alarms blaring through the palace. She ran to the command center, still in her sleep clothes, her heart pounding. George was already there, his face pale as he stared at the screens. "What is it?" Elena demanded. "Ships," George said quietly. 30 of them. Crethian fleet. They are coming directly for us." Elena felt cold wash over her. 30 ships. That was not an invasion force. That was an execution squad. The Crethians were not going to make the same mistake twice. This time, they were bringing enough firepower to destroy Viridian completely. Ryan appeared in the doorway, fully dressed despite the early hour. He looked at the screens, his face calm but his jaw tight. "How long until they arrive?" he asked. 4 hours, George said. "Maybe less if they push their engines?" Ryan walked to the communication panel. "Do we have any defensive satellites? Weapons platforms?" "No," Elena said. "We never needed them. We are farmers, not soldiers." Ryan nodded, thinking, "Then we cannot win a straight fight. But we do not need to." He turned to Elena. "I need to send a message. A specific frequency. Can your systems do that?" "Yes, but who are you calling? Earth is too far away. No one can get here in time to help." "I am not calling Earth." Ryan moved to the console and began entering codes. "I am calling old friends, people who owe me favors." Elena watched as Ryan worked. His fingers moved quickly over the controls, entering a complex sequence. Finally, he activated a transmission. It was not a voice message, just a data burst, a series of numbers and coordinates. "What did you send?" Elena asked. "A beacon, an old military signal. If any of my former unit members are still alive and in range, they will recognize it." Ryan stepped back from the console. "Now we wait." "Wait?" George's voice rose. "We have 4 hours before 30 warships destroy us, and you want to wait?" "What else can we do?" Ryan said calmly. "We have no weapons, no ships, no army. All we can do is hope that help arrives before the Crethians do." The next hours were agony. Elena tried to organize evacuations, but where could her people go? The Crethian fleet would track any ships that left the planet. They would be sitting targets. All she could do was move people into shelters underground and pray. Ryan spent the time walking through the city, memorizing streets and buildings. Elena followed him, watching him work. "You have a plan," she said. "Tell me." Ryan glanced at her. "If help does not come, I will do what I can. Maybe I can board one of their ships. take out their command. It will not save everyone, but it might buy time for some to escape. That is suicide, Elena said. You cannot fight 30 ships alone. I know, Ryan's voice was matter-of-fact, but it is better than doing nothing. Elena grabbed his arm, forcing him to stop and look at her. No, I will not let you throw your life away. It is my choice to make. You said we face things together, remember? Elena's eyes filled with tears. You cannot ask me to stay safe while you die. That is not how marriage works. Ryan's expression softened. He reached up and gently wiped a tear from her cheek. You are right. I am sorry. I am not used to having someone who cares if I live or die. Before Elena could respond, George's voice crackled over their communicators. Princess, ships are entering the system. But they are not Crethian. Ryan and Elena ran back to the command center. On the screens, 5 new signatures appeared. Small ships, fast and heavily armed. They moved with military precision, taking up defensive positions around Viridian. Ryan stared at the screen, his mouth slightly open. They came, he whispered. They actually came. One of the ships opened a communication channel. A woman's face appeared on the screen. She had short brown hair, a scar on her chin, and eyes that looked like they had seen too many battles. Is that really you, Ryan? The woman asked. Or am I looking at a ghost? Ryan moved to the screen, his hand trembling slightly. Lily, it has been a long time. 10 years, Lily said. Her voice was hard, but her eyes were soft. We thought you were dead. When I got your beacon, I did not believe it. Had to see for myself. I am sorry, Ryan said quietly. I should have contacted you before. Yes, you should have. Lily's face hardened. But we can discuss that later. Right now, you have incoming hostiles. 30 Crethian warships. Want to tell me why you are picking fights with entire fleets? Ryan explained quickly. The marriage, the Crethians, the first battle. Lily listened, her expression shifting from anger to understanding to something like amusement. So you got married, she said when he finished. Never thought I would see the day. Is that her? She looked at Elena. Elena stepped forward. I am Elena Moore. Thank you for coming. Do not thank me yet, Lily said. 5 ships against 30 are bad odds, but the rest of the team is inbound. Jake is 20 minutes out. Marcus and Sam are 30. We have maybe an hour before this gets ugly. True to her word, more ships arrived over the next hour. Each one brought a member of Ryan's old unit, Jake Porter, a massive man with a shaved head and cybernetic arms. Marcus Webb, thin and nervous-looking, but with eyes that never stopped moving. Sam Rodriguez, quiet and serious, with scars covering half his face. They gathered in the palace, these warriors from Ryan's past. Elena watched them reunite, seeing the bonds that connected them. They had all suffered together, survived together. And they had all tried to leave that life behind, just like Ryan. So what is the plan? Jake asked, cracking his knuckles. Straight fight? Boarding action? We cannot win a direct battle, Ryan said. But we do not need to. We just need to cut the head off the snake. The Crethian fleet will be commanded by a Grand Admiral. If we can take him out, the fleet falls apart. Boarding the flagship, Lily said. Classic Phantom Corps operation. Crazy and probably suicidal. I like it. I am coming with you, Elena said. Everyone turned to stare at her. Ryan shook his head. No, absolutely not. This is my planet, Elena said firmly. My people, I will not hide while you fight for us. Elena, you are not trained for this, Ryan said. Combat is not like what you saw in the palace. On a ship with no room to move against soldiers who know we are coming? It is brutal, ugly. Then teach me, Elena said. We have an hour. Teach me enough to survive. Ryan looked like he wanted to argue more, but Lily laughed. I like her. She has spine. We can give her a gun, teach her to shoot straight. Keep her in the middle of the formation where we can protect her." "This is insane," Ryan muttered. "Welcome to the Phantom Course," Marcus said with a thin smile. "Insanity is what we do." They spent the next hour preparing. Ryan showed Elena how to hold a gun, how to aim, how to breathe. She was not good at it, but she was determined. Meanwhile, the others prepared their equipment, checked weapons, and planned the assault. When the Krethian fleet arrived, they came like a storm. 30 massive warships, each one bristling with weapons. They took up position around Viridian, their guns pointed at the planet like executioners preparing for a beheading. A message came through from the flagship. A new face appeared on the screen, even more frightening than Zekthor. This was Grand Admiral Vextar, the highest military commander in this sector. His face was covered in battle scars, his eyes cold and merciless. "Princess Elena," his voice boomed. "Your husband humiliated War Master Zekthor. For that insult, your planet will be destroyed. Nothing personal. This is simply how the Krethian Empire maintains respect." "Wait," Elena said, trying to keep her voice steady. "We can negotiate. Please." "There is no negotiation," Vextar said. "You have 1 hour to pray to whatever gods you believe in. Then we open fire." The screen went dark. Elena looked at Ryan, fear clear on her face. Ryan touched her shoulder gently. "Time to go," he said. They boarded one of the small ships, all 7 of them squeezed into the tight space. Lily piloted, weaving between the Krethian vessels, using stealth technology to avoid their sensors. The ride was rough, violent, making Elena's stomach twist. 2 minutes, Lily called back. "Get ready." They approached the flagship from underneath, where its sensors were weakest. Lily matched their speed perfectly, bringing them alongside. Jake fired a magnetic grapple, pulling them tight against the hull. "Breaching now," Marcus said. He placed a small device on the hull and stepped back. 5 seconds later, it exploded, creating a hole just big enough for them to squeeze through. They entered the flagship one by one. Inside was chaos. Alarms blared as the Krethians realized they had been boarded. Soldiers rushed toward them, weapons firing. Ryan moved first, fast and deadly. The others followed, each one covering the others with practiced precision. Elena stayed in the middle, her gun raised, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. A Krethian soldier appeared in front of her, raising a massive blade. Elena pulled the trigger. The gun kicked in her hands. The soldier fell. She stood frozen, shocked that she had just killed someone. "Move!" Ryan grabbed her arm, pulling her forward. "Do not think! Just move!" They fought through corridor after corridor. The Krethians kept coming, wave after wave. But Ryan's team worked together like parts of a machine, each person knowing exactly where the others would be. Finally, they reached the bridge. The doors were sealed, but Marcus planted explosives. The doors blew inward, smoke filling the space. Grand Admiral Vexitar stood in the center of the bridge, surrounded by guards. When he saw Ryan, his eyes widened slightly. "The Revenant," he said. "So the stories were true. You really are here." "Stand down," Ryan said. "Order your fleet to withdraw." "Or what? You will kill me?" Vexitar laughed. "Then my second-in-command destroys the planet anyway. You gain nothing." Ryan smiled coldly. "I thought you would say that." He pulled out a small device. "My team planted breaching charges throughout your ship's power core. If you do not stand down, your flagship becomes a tomb. And without their flagship, your fleet has no coordination. They will be easy targets for my team's ships." Vextar's face went pale. He looked at his sensor displays and cursed in his own language. "You are bluffing." "Try me," Ryan said. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Vexitar lowered his weapon. "You would really destroy this ship? Kill yourself just to stop me?" "Without hesitation," Ryan said. And Elena knew he meant it. Vextar stared at Ryan, then at Elena, then back at Ryan. Slowly, he nodded. "You win, Revenant. I will order the fleet to withdraw." The Crethean fleet left Viridian space within 3 hours. Grand Admiral Vextar was true to his word, but he did something unexpected before he left. He sent a message to Elena offering formal negotiations for a peace treaty between the Crethean Empire and the human colonies. "Why would he do that?" Elena asked Ryan as they stood in the palace, watching the last Crethean ship disappear from their screens. "Because we surprised him," Ryan said. "The Cretheans respect strength above all else. We proved we are not easy targets. Now he sees value in making us allies instead of enemies." Over the next weeks, diplomats arrived from both sides. Elena found herself hosting meetings between human and Crethean representatives. It was strange, sitting in the same room with the aliens who had threatened her people, but slowly, carefully, they began to build something new. Vexitar himself returned, without weapons this time. He sat across from Elena and Ryan, his massive frame somehow less intimidating without an army behind him. "Your husband is a credit to your species," Vexitar said to Elena. "We Cretheans have a saying, the best enemy becomes the best friend. I believe we can build something beneficial for both our peoples." The trade agreements took months to finalize, but when they were done, Viridian became a hub for human Crethean commerce. Ships came and went, bringing goods and ideas. Elena's small farming colony transformed into a thriving center of culture and trade. But the biggest change was not political. It was personal. Ryan's old team decided to stay on Viridian. Together, they formed a security company called Phantom Security. They offered protection services to small colonies that could not defend themselves, the places that bigger powers ignored. "We spent years being weapons," Lily told Elena one evening. They sat on the palace balcony, watching the sun set over the city. "Now we get to be shields instead. It feels right." Jake opened a training facility, teaching colonists basic self-defense. Marcus started a technology business, using his technical skills to help colonies improve their communications. Sam opened a clinic for veterans, helping soldiers deal with trauma and transition to civilian life. They were healing, all of them, finding purpose beyond violence. Ryan himself changed the most. He still carried himself like a soldier, still watched everything with those careful eyes, but he smiled more, laughed occasionally. Slowly, the tired sadness in his eyes began to fade. Elena got to know him beyond the warrior. She learned that he loved poetry, especially old Earth writers. He would read to her sometimes in the evenings, his rough voice gentle as he spoke about stars and love and hope. She learned that he was terrible at cooking, that he hummed old songs when he thought no one was listening, that he had nightmares sometimes and would wake up gasping. On those nights, Elena would hold him until the shaking stopped. She did not try to fix him or make the nightmares go away. She just stayed with him, present and solid, reminding him that he was not alone. "Thank you," he said one night, after a particularly bad dream. They sat together in the darkness, his head on her shoulder. "For what?" Elena asked. "For seeing me as more than what I was. For believing I could be better." Elena kissed his forehead. "You have always been more. You just needed someone to remind you." 6 months after the Crethean fleet withdrew, Elena discovered she was pregnant. She told Ryan on a quiet evening, just the two of them in their private quarters. He stared at her for a long moment, his eyes wide. "A child," he whispered. "Elena, I do not know if I can be a father. What if I mess this up? What if my past hurts them?" Elena took his hand and placed it on her stomach. "You will not be doing this alone. We will figure it out together. And besides, you are already protecting people. What is one more?" Ryan laughed, tears forming in his eyes. He pulled her close, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the universe. "I love you," he said. "I do not think I have ever said that to anyone before. But I love you." "I love you too," Elena said, and she meant it. What had started as a desperate bargain had become something real, something beautiful. The months passed. Elena's stomach grew. Ryan became impossibly protective, worrying about everything. Lily teased him mercilessly about becoming soft. Jake built a crib with his own hands, complete with intricate carvings of stars and ships. Marcus created a mobile with tiny holographic planets that spun above the crib. Sam made sure the palace medical facilities were fully equipped for the birth. They were a family now, this strange collection of warriors and colonists. They celebrated together, ate together, protected each other. When Elena went into labor, Ryan was a mess. He paced outside the medical room, driving George crazy with his nervous energy. Lily finally grabbed him and forced him to sit down. "She is strong," Lily said. "She will be fine. You, on the other hand, look like you are about to pass out." "What if something goes wrong?" Ryan asked. "What if I lose her?" "Then we will deal with it," Lily said gently. "But worrying will not help. Just breathe." Hours later, a cry filled the palace. Ryan was allowed into the room to find Elena holding a tiny baby, wrapped in soft blankets. She looked exhausted, but radiant, smiling at the small life in her arms. "It is a girl," she said softly. "Would you like to hold her?" Ryan approached slowly, carefully. Elena placed the baby in his arms, and he stared down at her in wonder. She had Elena's nose, his eyes, and a full head of dark hair. She yawned, tiny fists waving. "She is perfect," Ryan whispered. Tears ran down his face. "What should we name her?" "Hope," Elena said. "I want to name her Hope, because that is what you gave me, what you gave all of us." Ryan nodded, unable to speak. He held his daughter close, this tiny miracle, and felt something break inside him. The last pieces of the weapon he used to be crumbled away, leaving only a man, a father, someone who had a future worth living for. The celebration lasted 3 days. The entire colony came to see the princess and her child. Even Vextar sent a gift, a traditional Crethian blessing carved in crystal. The message said, "May she grow strong and bring honor to both our peoples." On the 3rd night, after the guests had left, Ryan and Elena sat together on their balcony. Hope slept between them in a carrier, making small, contented sounds. The city below glowed with lights. In the sky, ships came and went, human and Crethian working together. "Are you happy?" Elena asked. Ryan looked at her, then at their daughter, then at the city they had built together. "I never thought I could be. For 10 years I just survived, moved from place to place, trying to outrun my past. Then you offered me a marriage contract, and I thought it would just be another mission, save some people and move on." "But?" Elena prompted. "But you taught me something," Ryan said. "You taught me that the past does not have to define the future, that broken things can be made whole again, that even someone like me can have a home." He took her hand, his thumb tracing the simple ring she still wore. "You saved me, Elena, not with weapons or strategy, but with kindness and stubbornness and love. You saved me from myself." Elena leaned her head on his shoulder. "We saved each other. I needed a warrior, and you needed a reason to be more than a weapon. It worked out perfectly." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. Hope stirred and made a small noise. Ryan picked her up carefully, holding her against his chest. She settled immediately, comforted by his heartbeat. "What do you think her life will be like?" Ryan wondered. "Growing up in a galaxy where humans and Crethians work together? Where her father used to be called the Revenant?" "I think she will be whoever she wants to be," Elena said. She will grow up knowing that strength comes in many forms, that protecting others is noble, that even in darkness hope can survive. Ryan smiled. Hope. It is a good name. It is a perfect name, Elena agreed. Weeks turned into months. Hope grew, learning to smile, to laugh, to reach for the mobile above her crib. Ryan's nightmares became less frequent. He found peace in the simple routines of fatherhood. Late-night feedings, changing diapers, singing lullabies he made up on the spot. Phantom Security grew successful, protecting dozens of colonies. The team operated differently than traditional military forces. They trained colonists to defend themselves, built relationships with local leaders, and only used violence as a last resort. Ryan led them with wisdom earned from years of making the opposite choices. On Hope's first birthday, the palace hosted a celebration. Humans and Crethians attended together, their children playing without the fear and hatred their parents once held. War Master Zekthor himself came, bringing gifts and stories of Crethian tradition. "You have changed the galaxy," Zekthor told Ryan. "When I first came to this world, I saw only weakness. Now I see strength of a different kind. The strength to build instead of destroy, to forgive instead of hate. My people respect that." Ryan watched Hope toddle across the floor, chasing after one of the human children, while a young Crethian carefully ensured she did not fall. "I did not change anything. I just stopped running long enough to see what was possible." Elena joined them, slipping her hand into Ryan's. "He is being modest. He changed everything." As the sun set on Viridian, Ryan stood on the balcony one more time. His family was inside, laughing and celebrating. His friends were there, alive and healing. The galaxy was at peace, at least in this small corner of it. He thought about the scared, broken man who had accepted a marriage contract from a desperate princess. That man had expected to help and leave, to disappear back into the shadows. He never expected to find a home. But here he was, a husband, a father, a protector of a people who had given him everything when he thought he had nothing left to give. Elena came out to join him, Hope in her arms. The little girl reached for her father, and Ryan took her, holding her close. "Happy?" Elena asked again. Ryan looked at his family, at the city glowing below, at the future stretching out before them full of possibility. He kissed his daughter's forehead, then Elena's lips. "More than I ever dreamed possible," he said. And for the first time in 10 years, the ghost of Terra Station was truly at peace.